Welcome to the Vol Bros. My name is Evan. This is my brother Gaston QB1 Moore, and we are two Vol Bros who are actually bros. It's kind of cool having the football intro back, even though it's March, or I mean April. Good grief, it's halfway through April. So it's a very exciting day on Rocky Top. My goodness, over 58,000 people show up for the orange and white game. A lot of exciting things to talk about coming out of the orange and white game. First of all, I think we are obligated to begin our conversation by talking about the running backs. My goodness gracious. We thought the wide receiver room was the deepest room on the team. Well, maybe not. Rustin said, the defensive line room is a really deep line or room. Running backs, it's going to be hard to get all five of those guys the ball. I thought one thing that was interesting, I had said previously on our most recent podcast that I would love to see them see what they're going to do with Cam Seldon, if they're going to motion him out of the backfield, that kind of thing. And Rustin and I both were like, probably not going to see that, though. They're probably going to be pretty vanilla. First play of the game that he was in there, they motioned him out of the backfield and throw the ball to him as a receiver. So that was pretty cool. What do you think about those running backs, Rustin?
I think the most amazing thing is, we really didn't see Khalifa Keith. So, it's not just those five. Jalen Wright's not playing, Jabari Small's not playing. We saw the three remaining feature backs. And they were higher on Khalifa Keith than any of these guys coming out of high school. So it's a crazy deep room. I thought that DeSean Bishop ran the ball extremely well. We got to see Cam Seldon's burst. We got to see them right off the bat show that they're going to use him like Cordero Patterson, just like we talked about. Dylan Sampson. Dylan Sampson ran the ball well, but it didn't really matter. Everybody was more impressed with Cam Seldon and DeSean Bishop. But the reality is, if those two guys don't touch a ball all year, great. They're so incredibly deep. And, the reality is, if Jabari and Jalen both have really good years this year, they may not be back next year. So, to know that we've got Dylan Sampson, Cam Seldon, and DeSean Bishop, and potentially Khalifa Keith for the future, that running back room is going to keep looking really good. And I don't know if you noticed, but the top running back in the class of 25 just listed Tennessee in his top 5. So we are continuing to stockpile talent, and that's a really nice thing to see finally.
Absolutely. John is joining us. John said, let's go Big Orange. And he said, win on my birthday. Woo, that's what I'm talking about. Hey, happy birthday, John. That's exciting. The Lady Vols got a win on your birthday for sure. That was one thing that was good about the orange and white game, is that no matter what, Tennessee was going to win and also lose, but they were going to win.
That was the weirdest scoring I've ever seen in my life. Like, I had no idea who was playing for who,
yeah.
The guys in white jerseys scored a touchdown and they put 7 points up for orange. And it's like,
yeah.
What are we doing?
Yeah. It took me about a quarter to figure out what was going on as well. And they kind of warned everybody about that at the beginning of the broadcast. They're like, so the scoring is going to be a little bit different. At least it wasn't like 2 points for a stop on defense and stuff like that, like Butch did back in 2013, I think it was.
I kind of like what Auburn did. Hugh Freeze spotted the defense 21 points, and they played offense on defense, but the defense started with 21, and so it was the offense's job to try to beat them.
That's cool.
I almost wish we had done something like that, because that back and forth, especially with rotating quarterbacks. And, there was one series where Joe Milton was playing for one side, then 2 series later he was playing for the other side, and it was just...
Yeah. Well, Gaston Moore threw a touchdown for both teams.
Right.
John said Gaston Moore sure did look good. Yeah, he did. I was proud of Gaston, and I love the tweet that Tennessee football tweeted out. Something like, no one throws like Gaston. It was great. I've been saying for a while that, QB3, he ain't bad. He can sling it. And it was fun to watch him get out there and get to do it today.
the other day, Josh Heupel was asked if they were going to go get a quarterback in the portal after spring practice, and he said no. And when he said it, I was a little surprised because I felt like they needed somebody to back up Joe so that they could redshirt Nico. And after watching Gaston today, I understand now why he said no. He's got a lot of confidence in that kid.
He can sling it. He's good. Drop down sidearm over the middle there. That was beautiful.
I think that was probably the thing that stood out to me the most. It wasn't so much how he threw it. It was the reads he was making and the way he controlled the game. He was making every right read. He understood exactly what he was going to have. You know, that touchdown to Hunter Salmon, that was a scheme play. And he knew off the ball snap that Hunter Salmon was going to be wide open. And he looked off the safety and then came underneath and hit him. And it was a great throw, but it was an even better understanding of what he was going to see. And he executed to perfection.
Well, speaking of the running backs, we have a question here that I think is an interesting question because I came up with the question earlier this afternoon and I can't figure out an answer for it. So if you're watching, we would appreciate you chiming in with your opinion as well. This is the deepest backfield at the University of Tennessee since when? And I think there's many factors involved in this answer. Number one, people could say, well, Jalen Hurd, Alvin Kamara, John Kelly Jr., 3 NFL players. That's only 3. We have 5 people right now that legit could end up in the league someday. I don't see how they can keep DeSean Bishop and Cam Seldon off the field. They're going to get them the ball somehow. You remember years ago, and I hate to bring up Florida in this, but by the way, their spring game was not impressive. On
their spring
Thursday
game
night
was horrendous.
But you remember how they used Percy Harvin? And he was just all over the field. He'd line up in the backfield, line up at receiver. I envision that for Cam Seldon in the future, except Cam is like way bigger than Percy Harvin. But we'll talk about that in a minute. But they can't keep the ball out of their hands if they're going to continue to perform like they are right now. And they're just going to get better because they've got 6 months, or not that long, 4 months until kickoff. So they're just going to get better. During the game, I tweeted out that DeSean Bishop's vision is fantastic. He has great vision. And, Heupel echoed those words in his post-game press conference. They can't, those guys are going to see the field. If you got playmakers, you got to get them the ball. And Tennessee has playmakers all over the field. How in the world they're going to get the ball to all these guys? I don't know. But that is a wonderful problem to have. John said the punter made some good kicks too. Wish they would have let the kicker kick at the end of the game. Yeah, the one punt in particular that rolled out at about the 2 or 3 yard line, I thought the official, if it had been like a real game, I'd have been like, oh, come on, man. I thought that ball rolled out at the 1 or 2 and the official spotted it at the 3, but it had shades of Trevor Daniel against Georgia from a few years ago on that punt right there. Trevor's went out on the opposite side of the field on the north sideline, on the east sideline, whereas that one rolled out on the west sideline. But almost identical looking punts. I agree. He did a good job.
He boomed a couple. Those Australian guys can just flat kick.
So what would be your answer to this question? Because I still don't know my answer. Are you there?
To what? The deepest backfield?
The deepest backfield. Yeah.
Well, it's going to be a long time, and this group might achieve it. I think honestly, the group of Dylan Sampson, and the 2 freshman running backs we saw today, give them 2 years of college speed and strength programs, putting on mass. I think they could potentially get to the place of being maybe the best that we've ever had. But until somebody physically does it, the backfield that had Travis Henry, Travis Stevens, and Jamal Lewis, I mean, that's just a freak show. There's
Absolutely.
I mean, there might. It's been a long time. Alabama had a group a few years ago, but it's been a long time since there's been a group that big, that strong, that fast, who
Yeah,
all
totally
could
agree.
change a game by themselves on one team.
And John said the cobweb years. So, I mean, here's my take on that. I think you're exactly right. There's no doubt the group of Lewis, Henry, and Stevens would be better than this group. But once again, that's three, and we're talking about a group of five. That's what makes this more difficult for me, is because none of the guys individually are as good as any of Henry, Stevens, or Lewis. None of them.
Mm-mm.
But you have five guys who are all pretty good. I mean, like
Oh yeah,
they're all good backs, and so um, when you try to, it's like a quality versus quantity situation here. We got five guys that are all well above average.
and again, you keep saying five. I'm telling you, when he's healthy, Khalifa Keith is going to be right there in the mix. There's going to be six.
So I mean, when you look at that quantity, it's hard to say this isn't one of the deepest backfields we've had since Henry and Stevens, but there's not a one guy that is like a Jamal Lewis or one guy that's like a Travis Stevens, that kind of thing. So it's a really tough question to answer. I don't know my answer, really. I mean, I don't, because once again, it's quality versus quantity. And so if you want to go deepest, and if it's just quantity, then man, who knows how far back we can go. But if you want to go quality, then you would have to stop probably at 2016 with Kamara, Hurd, and John Kelly Jr. Because the quality of that backfield was probably better than this one, but the quantity of this one, not in my lifetime. I don't remember having six different backs back there that were like, how are we going to get all these dudes the ball? I mean, it's incredible. Robert said, I believe the Vols will be in the SEC championship this year. Go Big Orange, man. I hope so. That'd be huge. Okay. If they are, though, okay, we got to do a caveat here. If they are in the SEC championship game this year, I sincerely hope that they are undefeated going into the SEC championship game, so that if they lose, that's their first loss. Because
Yeah.
if they have one loss at like Alabama going into the SEC championship game, which means they beat Georgia at home, but if they have one loss going into that game and they lose that game, then that could come back to bite them. So hopefully, I agree, they are in the SEC championship game undefeated. I actually predicted earlier this year that they would be have one loss going into the SEC championship game, and that would beat Alabama. Rustin predicted that they would have one loss to Georgia, which would, in theory, assuming Georgia wins out, would not allow them in the SEC championship game. And you could make the argument that would be an easier path to the playoff. John said, I can't wait to see Sampson run rampant. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, all these guys, and you think about it like this, the entire offensive line today, not all of them were out there. And so, this would be an interesting conversation in the fall when we're seeing who's getting the bulk of the carries and how much room they have to run, that kind of thing. Totally agree with Doug Graham. He said Jerry Mack has coached up these running backs. Yeah, no doubt. I mean, that absolutely. I don't know if you might saw it, but in they had Cam Seldon as one of the players interviewed after the game, in the post game, and somebody asked him when the last time he played running back was. He said when he was 12 years old. That was the last time he played running back. He's used to playing receiver.
So before you move on to that next comment, let's stop there for a second, because that was one thing that really stood out to me today. So, there's height and weight, and then there's high school height and weight, which is always drastically enhanced and is real is rarely ever actually true. Cam Seldon, coming out of high school, was listed at 6'2", 210. Today, they listed him at 6'2", 215, and I can't remember which announcer it was, but one of them said they were shocked at his size, and they think he's more like 220. So
So
again,
remember,
it's April. By August, he'll be 225 easy because they will have him on a mass program, and he will be getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Let me put that in perspective for you. Of our running backs, who do you think is our toughest, most hard-nosed, go-get-a-yard running back?
Jalen Wright.
Okay, Jalen Wright is 5'11", 205. Cam Seldon, by this fall, will be 6'2", 225, running insanely fast. One of my things that I was a little concerned about for this fall was, with Joe, they have an opportunity to have a power run game where, if they need to go get a yard, somebody can be a lead blocker and he can just take a direct snap and go get a yard. After seeing how big Cam Seldon is, I'm not sure we have to take that risk. I think we have a guy that if we need to go get a yard, Cam Seldon can go get a yard.
Yeah, no doubt.
And to not have to take that risk with Joe Milton is huge. That can never be undervalued because, getting into a pile, trying to fight for an extra 6 inches, and all of a sudden somebody steps on an ankle or rolls you up, to not have to worry about that and know that we've got a guy that if we need to go be big and we need to go pound the rock and get a yard, we got a guy that can do that.
Absolutely. So Mr. Jones asked, do you think Heupel will try to add another QB from the portal, seeing how we only have 2 scholarship quarterbacks in Nico and Joe? So Rustin actually talked about that a minute ago. You want to say what you had said a minute ago? This was before Mr. Jones had joined us.
If you had asked me a month ago, I would have said after spring practice, they absolutely would. But earlier this week, Josh Heupel was actually asked that question and he said no. And then after watching Gaston Moore play today and watching how well he managed the offense and the way he read defenses and the decision-making he showed, now I understand why. Josh Heupel and Joey Halsley have complete confidence in Gaston Moore. If something happens and he has to be the backup, they're good with it. They are not concerned.
Doug Graham said, why would Cam Seldon's high school coach not have him at running back? I would want the ball in his hands as much as possible.
he actually mostly played wildcat quarterback and wide receiver. So that was why they considered initially moving him into the backfield, was he had taken a lot of direct snaps as a quarterback and run some gimmick plays just so they could get the ball in his hands. But, from his perspective, he didn't consider that being a running back.
Mr. Jones said the defense looked better today. Absolutely. Totally agree with that. Especially the secondary. Well, good. Now, I 100% understand that Dante Thornton, Brew McCoy, Ramel Keaton, and Squirrel White, none of them played. I get that. But nevertheless, there weren't guys running wide open, free. I can think of like one time when a guy got open over the middle of the field, maybe twice. And so that's a way bigger improvement from last year. So absolutely, totally agree with that.
And the thing that stood out to me, and again, we didn't have any of our studs at receiver, but they played a lot of man, which was important to see. We've shied away from that in the past, and honestly, I think one of the reasons they played a lot of man was Aaron Beasley and Keenan Peely didn't play, so they didn't want a freshman middle linebacker trying to get them organized and get them lined up. I think they just made a determination. Okay, the front 6, you all get your call from the sideline. Everybody else, we're playing man.
John just made a really good point. He said no one would come as a quarterback from the portal anyways with Joe and Nico. That's fair. That's a fair point. I mean, they know that they're stepping into a situation where they're not going to see the field. I think that's a really good point. Mr. Jones said, "Who's going to fill the role that Princeton Fant had, being a Swiss Army knife for Hype's offense?" That's a good question.
McAllen Castles.
Well, okay, so that's a good question. That's who I was hoping would. That's who I was hoping would be the dude that fills it. I think as far as blocking goes, him and Jacob Warren will certainly do that. But and there was one play today. It was 3rd and 8, I think it was. And I know it's just one play. I get that. But ball hit McAllen Castles right in the hands. Could have been a first down, and he dropped it. Got to make those catches. So I hope he does. Like, I hope he is that guy that is, the Swiss Army knife, because that was a good thing about Princeton was, he could catch it out of the backfield, but he could also block. One thing we saw with Ethan Davis today is, boy, he can catch it out of the backfield. No doubt about that.
I'll tell you, the best play of the day was when Nico scrambled, and
agreed.
You had to notice it on the replay. So in most offenses, they teach receivers.
Hold up, is this your play of the game? Because if so, I'm going to put that on the screen.
I don't know. Maybe. No, I'm going to give my play of the game to Dayton Sneed catching the fade over whoever was on defense from Gaston Moore, only because that play will never, ever happen in a real game.
Yeah. So I was going to mention that later too. So the play you're describing right now with Nico rolling out to his right, and then the catch, the placement of the throw and the catch by Ethan Davis, incredible. A close second was Caleb Webb catching the ball between 2 defenders on that deep ball from Joe Milton. The concentration it took to hold on to that ball was incredible. But go ahead and describe the play you're describing, because that was my play of the game.
Gaston Moore just threw a good fade route. It was a, for lack of a better term, kind of a gimmicky hybrid.
You're talking
smack.
to Dayton Sneed? You're talking about that play?
Oh, you want me to talk about what I was originally bringing up?
Yeah.
So he, in most offenses, receivers are taught when the quarterback scrambles, you immediately go straight to the sideline. Once you hit the sideline, if he's still scrambling, you turn and get vertical. So the point is, if you run to the sideline, you might outrun the guy guarding you, and it's an easy throw for a quarterback to hit you on the run and get some positive yards. If you get all the way to the sideline and he's still scrambling, then you turn and get vertical to take the defense away so that he has room to tuck it and run. Well, if you watch on the replay, as he's scrambling, Nico pointed to Ethan Davis to get vertical. So Ethan Davis did a typical freshman thing, got to the sideline, then forgot, oh, wait, I'm supposed to get vertical now. So Nico basically ran the play for Ethan Davis, sent him vertical, and then threw a perfect ball right on top of his head, where, a lot of quarterbacks would have done that just to create space so they can run. Nico already knew he was throwing that ball and told Ethan Davis to get vertical and then just put it right on him. And I'm going to tell you right now, that was not a freshman quarterback. That is a big time play and a big time throw that 98% of the quarterbacks in college football cannot make.
Someone who should still be in high school, actually.
Yep.
I mean, that's what's really impressive when you think about the guys we've mentioned so far. Nico, Cam Seldon, DeSean Bishop. All 3 of those guys should still be seniors in high school right now. Like, that's what's so incredible about what we saw today. We saw guys making you notice them on the field, and they should be in the last semester of their high school, years right now. It's impressive. Yep. Let's see. Had a couple people make some comments here. Doug said, I heard the freshman tight end broke his collarbone. Did you guys hear this? Okay, so I have not heard that.
So he had collarbone issues in high school, and he caught a ball over the middle, and on the next play, they aren't sure if he fell on his collarbone on the ball he caught and then realized it on the next play, or if on the next play he re-injured his injury from high school. I don't think they've confirmed that it's broken, but honestly, even if it is, by August, September, he'll be limited at first, but this is a kid that, they would like to get involved, but if they don't have to get him involved, they're thrilled to death to redshirt him. So if he has to sit the first few games and his 4 games are maybe the last 4, or they sprinkle in 4 games throughout the second half of the season and then redshirt him, that would be a huge positive.
Well, based on what I saw today, unless Jacob Warren and McAllen Castles take some steps forward, he's going to have to be involved because he is definitely more athletic than either one of those two guys.
They will. I mean, McAllen Castles is on 8 to 10 NFL teams' draft boards. Like, it's a spring game. I mean, my goodness, we called Michael Bittner's name 3 or 4 times. This is not real life. It's just different.
Mr. Jones said they ran Fant in short yardage goal line situations. I think he even threw a pass on trick play. Yeah, he did. He threw it was a double reverse pass, 2-point conversion one time. He said, I really think Heupel just didn't want to show too much on tape to get, 100%. Absolutely.
And there's the opposite of that. Sometimes you show things for the sole purpose of giving people something to watch.
Like Cam Seldon motioning out of the backfield.
Right. Well, we saw Cam Seldon go jet motion 3 times today, and I never thought they would show that. And, Josh Heupel and Joey Halsley aren't stupid. They do things intentionally. It's just like we talked about the other day. There was a video clip. How many times does UT football put out video clips from practice and they blur out who's catching the ball, or they change the camera angle slightly so you can't really see what the route was? But the other day, just randomly, they tweet out a video of Joe throwing about a 60-yard ball to Dante Thornton after he makes a double move. And that's the whole video. And, that was intentional. That is for somebody. They're setting somebody up down the road. They don't just put stuff out there to put it out there. They think through everything. And sending Cam Seldon in motion across the offense, out of the backfield, all those kinds of things, that is for somebody specific. They're giving somebody something to watch that they know is going to create problems for them.
Absolutely. So for all of you watching right now, our question of the day is, this is the deepest backfield since when? And if you're just joining us, I brought up the fact that it's a difficult situation, difficult question, because it's a quantity versus quality kind of thing right now. We fully understand that none of the backs that we have right now are anywhere, in the same echelon yet as like a Henry, a Travis Henry, Travis Stevens, Jamal Lewis kind of situation. But I just mentioned 3 guys in one backfield, and we have 5 to 6 now that, we could throw out there and really not lose. I guess that's a good way of saying it. We could put 5 guys on the field this spring right now, and there wouldn't be that much of a drop off in any of them. And that's saying a lot. And so this is the deepest backfield since, and we'd love to get y'all's answers on that. Doug said it's so refreshing to finally see these guys being oh my goodness, yes, absolutely, being coached up on both sides of the ball. Man, oh man, it is a wonderful thing to see. Absolutely. We've been through a decade of, where it didn't happen. And now with Heupel and his staff, we actually get to see it happen. And that's a wonderful thing.
And so it's awesome too to hear the players talk about their relationships with their coaches. Like these guys, they're not, they're not just friends with their coaches. They very much respect their coaches. They respect the teaching that they're getting. And when you hear them talk, like great teachers, people who really understand how to communicate well and teach kids how to execute something, the product talks like our players talk. It is unreal to listen to them, and it doesn't seem to matter what position. Like they all fully understand what they are supposed to be doing, and they are all executing at a high level.
Totally agree. So I want to mention 2 guys specifically here that stood out today. Once again, we have two guys that we're talking about now, both of whom should still be in the spring semester of their last year of high school. Mr. Jones said, make them all underestimate us. Media is going to be saying only 17 points in spring game. Vols haters will be talking smack. Yeah, I mean, I get that. I totally get that. And if people say that, then we can say, well, 1/3 of the series, we had our third string quarterback in there. And then, yeah, I mean, people are going to say it. But when you think about it, Tennessee scored 31 points today, against, a defense. That's a good point. I'm sure there's already people talking about that. Absolutely. But Cam Seldon and Arian Carter. Okay. You remember Jason Swain a couple of years ago talking about all he needed to see in recruiting was a photo of the guy, and he could tell you if he looked like a 40-year-old man, then he was going to be good. All right. So after the game today, Cam Seldon is being interviewed in the postgame press conference. Dude looks like he's 27 years old already. I mean, it's crazy. He is a grown man. I mean, like it's incredible. His size, his speed. I mean, this kid, there's no doubt he's going to be a star. Arian Carter. All right. When a dude puts on shoulder pads and he looks like,
you can't tell.
Yeah, exactly. And he looks like Hercules or something out there, just like a house, man. That was Arian. He's a freshman. The kid should be in high school right now. And it looks like he's already been in a college weight room for 2 or 3 years. I mean, it was unreal. The dude, I mean, he was physically impressive out there. I'll put it that way. And so, I mean, that's exciting when we see guys coming in the door that look like now. So Mr. Jones asked a question here. Is there any truth to the rumor that Joe Milton's dating Taylor Swift? No, there's not any truth to that. I'm sorry. So that's actually a thing that's been going around for a while now. They also insinuated that Hendon Hooker at one point was dating Taylor Swift. That ain't true either. But that's a good, I'm glad we can clear the air on that one because, he's not. But they're just, it'll be somebody else next week. I mean, they've just been circling the team, I guess. But anyway, so both of those guys, my goodness, the next 3 years are going to be a lot of fun watching them. And yes, I strategically said 3 years because I'll be shocked if they're there after that. They're both just that physically gifted. Next question. Who surprised you today? You want to know mine? Dayton Sneed. That's what I was going to say. And you started mentioning
because you
it
didn't
earlier.
know who Dayton Sneed was.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, that was a big time catch he made in the back corner of the end zone. Like that was a nice play. Dayton Sneed, freshman from Donaldson Christian Academy. I mean, that was a big time play, man. And then he had another grab over the middle of the field later on in the game. So I was super pumped for him. I mean, that first touchdown of the day, Dayton Sneed in the corner of the end zone makes a great catch. That was really cool to see. So that was the guy who surprised me. Because like you said, I had no idea who he was before the game. One other thing.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
You're good. You're good.
Well, the other thing that surprised me was there was a dude playing receiver that we still don't know his name because he's not on the roster.
He walked on like 3 days ago
Yesterday.
And they put him out there.
Yeah. And so like he officially made the team yesterday. And so they told like Jordan Rogers and the commentating crew, they're like, don't worry, he's not going to play. And then they went out there and they were like, we don't know this guy's name.
They threw him a slant.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was cool. So that was a surprise. That was who surprised you? That was a surprise. Surprised Jordan Rogers too. Yeah, exactly.
He was probably on the sidelines going, wait, you want me to do what?
Yeah, I get to go in. Sweet.
I would say what surprised me, I'm going to say two things. I was surprised at how many carries DeSean Bishop got. And I was pleasantly surprised at how he responded to that number of carries. Again, every high school coach in Knoxville is looking at each other going, we've been telling these people for 4 years, because they're all thrilled to death to see him in a Tennessee uniform, because that means they don't have to have nightmares of him anymore. Because he has
Except people at
terrorized.
Carnes, they're going to miss him.
He has terrorized the city of Knoxville for the last 4 years. Every high school coach in that city is thrilled he's gone. And I would say probably the person who surprised me the most, and it's a good surprise, was Danico Slaughter. We talked about him making a permanent move to corner. He played fantastic man-to-man all day. He looked great covering people, and that's huge. We need to be able to play a lot more man, and it's good to see that we've got guys who are confident doing it, and we're willing to do it.
Absolutely. Mr. Jones said Nico's going to be next on the rumor mill for the Taylor Swift dating thing. He asked who's going to return kicks. So that's a great question. I think D. Williams will be the primary returner both for kickoffs and punt returns. However, it would not shock me if Cam Seldon is back there as the secondary guy on kickoffs.
Okay, so I'll be a high school coach in Knoxville again. I think it'll either be Dylan Sampson along with D. Williams, or if they make the decision not to redshirt DeSean Bishop, he will absolutely be back there. Again, every high school coach in Knoxville will tell you that kid is electric on kick returns. And when Carnes would put him back there, every team would just kick the ball out of bounds. Nobody wanted to even give him a chance. They were willing to give him the ball on the 35 and just kick it out of bounds.
Because his vision, man, like he has elite vision. Like it's like there was one play today. The play was supposed to go to the right side of the line, probably like off the right tackle, maybe right guard, and he saw you could literally watch him. He starts running the play that direction, and then out of the corner of his eye sees this massive hole on the left side and cuts back across the whole line and just beautiful cut. Mr. Jones said maybe Dylan Sampson and Cam Seldon or Squirrel. I
don't see him putting Squirrel back there. I don't think they would risk injury there, and he's just not big enough. Like you got to be able to take a shot here and there, and he just doesn't have enough mass on him.
So I'm still shocked that Squirrel White has not yet signed a NIL deal with the Brown Squirrel Furniture Place right there on I-75. I mean, that's like the biggest missed opportunity ever, right?
Could be a financial issue for the Brown Squirrel.
Yeah, that's true. They
may be trying to figure out how to make that happen.
Yeah. Doug Graham said, so glad we won that. This is for Arian Carter. That recruiting battle against Bama for Arian, that's what it takes to compete. Absolutely. 100%. He's exactly right. Austin said, unfortunately,
we've been winning a lot of recruiting battles. Getting Jake Merklinger out of the state of Georgia. So since
and
that
JJ Harrell,
since that signing, I've heard more and more, because I am still connected to a lot of coaches in Georgia. I've had a lot of coaches that I've talked to who have said that kid is unreal, and they were stunned that Georgia let him get away.
Hey, if I'm a high school quarterback and I see what Josh Heupel can do with quarterbacks, I'm going there too. I keep going back to Drew Lock, Missouri. I mean, look at what he did with Drew Lock. Led the SEC 2 consecutive years on offense. I mean, at Missouri. I mean, come on.
Mm-hmm.
Austin said, unfortunately, my surprise is I didn't get to watch the game today. Had unexpected dad responsibilities pop up. Hey, totally understand, man. Totally understand that. He said, about to watch the replay. Love the show, guys. Hey, we appreciate you joining us, Austin. He said, I'll give us 2 cents on the next live stream. I appreciate that. Let's see. Mr. Jones said, Squirrel should bury some nuts in both end zones on game day. When he scores a touchdown, go dig him up.
You have clearly never met the field maintenance people at Neyland Stadium.
I love it. I think it's a great idea.
They have no issue. They have no issue spearing random teenagers for walking on the wrong parts of the grass. They ain't gonna be letting anybody dig anything.
Squirrel picks a little shovel, mini shovel or something out of the under the he hides it under the pad on the goalpost, that the little circular pad.
Pretty sure that'll get a taunting flag.
Wasn't it? Terrell Owens did that with a Sharpie. He hit a Sharpie under the goalpost, and then
He did it twice. Another time he hit a cell phone in the pad and pulled the cell phone out after a touchdown and called somebody from the end zone.
The squirrel pulls a shovel out. That'd be awesome. I love it. I think it's a great idea, man. I think it's. I don't think it'll go over well, but I think it's a great idea. I think it would be funny. I will be like, "What were you doing, man? We got to go play now." Messing up our end zone. That's pretty good. That would be pretty funny though. In a spring game, especially. That's when it would be funny.
In a spring game, absolutely do it, but not in a real game.
Yeah. Robert said, "I believe the Vols have enough backs to be huge." Absolutely, man. Man, oh man, there's such a deep backfield. It's wonderful, wonderful to see that finally. Austin said, "Arian Carter and Cam Seldon are D1 ready physically and mentally." Oh, 100%. 100. I totally agree.
I think
those two are dudes.
I think that was another thing that stood out about Cam and DeSean Bishop was the amount of pass plays they were in. That's the biggest learning curve for true freshmen is pass pro. And for those coaches to be okay with them being out there and, potentially, you hate to say it, but freshmen are freshmen. Sometimes they do really dumb things and they get good players hurt because they just don't think. So, it's refreshing to see that they have complete confidence in those two guys in pass protection.
Well, that's why Dylan Sampson didn't get more playing time last year. It was because of pass protection. He was still working on that. And so, if those guys, if they already feel comfortable with them, in pass protection situations, and I understand today, they couldn't hit the quarterback. I get that. But nevertheless, it's encouraging to see what those guys are able to do right now. Mr. Jones said Joe Milton in year 3 of Heupel's system, if he has his accuracy under control, he can contend for the Heisman, be a top 10 pick. No doubt about it. 100%. Jordan Rogers was mentioning that today, that he said the exact same thing we said. And I've twice, I don't know if you noticed this. So Rustin, a few weeks ago, we were doing a podcast, and Rustin compared Cam Seldon to Cordero Patterson. Jordan Rogers made the exact same comparison today on television. I said a couple weeks ago, we were talking about after the NFL Combine, and Anthony Richardson's stock just skyrocketed because of what he did physically at the Combine, especially with the vertical jump, that kind of thing. We were talking about, we even put out a YouTube short where, we were talking about it and said, hey, that he broke the record for a vertical jump for any quarterback in the history of the Combine. Well,
and it's going to get broken again next year. Yeah.
It's going to last for 365 days because Joe Milton's going to walk in there and break it. That's the bottom line. Dude can jump. He does standing backflips to warm up. So, he's going to break that record. And exactly the same thing is going to happen. He's just going to skyrocket.
The most freakish thing they said all day was when they asked Joe Milton how far he can throw a ball, and he confidently said 95 yards.
Yeah. That's weird.
Let me
is a freak show, man.
Let me put that in perspective for anybody who doesn't understand how and the fact that Jordan Rogers didn't question it because he watched him throw and said, yeah, he can. The typical high school quarterback can throw the ball 40 to 45 yards in the air. If a high school quarterback can throw the ball 55 yards in the air, they're considered elite. College quarterbacks can throw the ball 60 to 65 yards in the air if they have really strong arms. The best quarterbacks in the NFL maybe throw the ball 75 to 80 yards in the air. And I'm talking the Josh Allens and Justin Herberts of the world. Joe Milton throws the ball 95 yards in the air. That is, when he said that today, I was sitting there going, okay, I've watched guys with some of the best arms in the world throw it 60, 65. 95 is just obscene. That's not, people don't do that.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy. Think about that. If you're an NFL team and you're like, well, we'll never be out of Hail Mary range at the end of a game.
The bigger problem you have is he can throw it farther than any receiver can run in time. So he actually has to take something off the ball so the receiver can catch up. It's unreal.
And we saw that today. He actually took too much off and underthrew Caleb Webb, and the ball did sneak through two defenders, and Caleb caught it, which was a great catch. Let's see. Mr. Jones said, I hope Hendon Hooker goes to the Titans. So-called experts just don't want to admit they were wrong about Hendon being the best quarterback in football just because the defense couldn't stop him and they had 11 players. So, I mean, here's the thing. If you look at the numbers, there is only one quarterback in the last, I think, 10 years to be in the top 5 of all quarterbacks for all 10 years in touchdown to interception efficiency. And Hendon Hooker did it twice. He was number 2 and number 5 on the list in quarterback numbers as far as touchdown to interception ratio. All quarterbacks for 10 years. And he was in 2 of the top 10 positions. That's pretty good. Numbers don't lie, man. Like he can do it. He takes care of the ball. Austin said Cam Seldon broke the state track record for Virginia high school 100 meter. You know who's Mike Vick? Yep. We actually had a YouTube short about that a couple weeks ago. Rustin mentioned that on the show. He said, dude's on another level. People just don't know because he was 1A. Yeah. I mean, that's a great point. We talked about just a few weeks ago on our show, that exact thing. We have a YouTube short about that. He is incredible. I mean, like he is physically impressive. It's going to be fun watching him in orange for 3 years. That's for sure. Joe Milton. He can throw it a mile. He sure can. I agree.
I agree with what the announcers said. If I'm a professional baseball team, I'm using the last pick of the draft on him and just saying, hey, whenever you're done with this football thing, we'd love to teach you how to pitch. Because I guarantee you he can throw 100 miles per hour. If you can throw a football 95 yards in the air, you can throw 100 plus.
I totally agree. Absolutely. Mr. Jones said if Hendon played for Bama, he'd be number 1 prospect potentially. Yeah. And what you just said about.
I hope. Go ahead.
What you just said about Joe being a pitcher. So if people are like, well, I don't know about that. I mean, professional baseball, listen, it's a business that needs to make money too. Look at the Savannah Bananas. I mean, they would pick him and bring him, to the Savannah Bananas organization just to be part of the show, literally the show, because that's what they are down there.
How much money did the Birmingham Barons make off Michael Jordan?
Exactly.
How much money are the Rocket City Trash Pandas making right now every time Ben Joyce steps on the mound?
Absolutely.
It's a show.
Yeah. Literally, it's in Savannah. Like I haven't been to a game. I want to go to a game at the Savannah Bananas. I mean, because they do the innings where if you catch a foul ball in the stands, it counts as an out. Yeah. And so like, I want to catch a ball. I can say I played in a minor league baseball game. Let's see. Austin said, he probably heard it from us. I don't know. He said, my wife tells me all the time that I say the things she told me and act like I came up with the information. I think we all do that, man.
Never let the facts get in the way of a good story.
Yeah. I love it, man. That's great. Talking about Joe Milton, Mr. Jones said he can play outfield and throw someone out from the outfield wall at home plate. Yeah, probably so. Yeah, absolutely. So next question from today. Now, last week, we did a show and I put a little excerpt of this question on YouTube yesterday. And it was our orange and white game preview. In the preview show, you said you wanted to see the backup linebackers tackle well. That's what you wanted to see. And no injuries.
Be injury free.
Yeah. And I said, I totally agree. No injuries. And I want to see a crisp, clean game that when we walk away from it, we're not like raving about the offense, like, oh man, they were so good, because then that means our defense just stunk, And also, we didn't want to walk away from it going, man, our defense dominated. What's wrong with the offense? So I feel like, as far as injuries, until we hear for sure what happened to Ethan Davis, we might have been okay there. I hope Ethan's okay. And we both hope Ethan is totally okay. The good news is, if he is injured, there is time for him to recover, but hopefully he's not injured, because man, he needs these months just as much as everybody else does for conditioning, for being in the weight room. So plus you just don't want somebody to get injured. I mean, I pray earlier today that no one get injured here and across the country. We don't want to see anybody get injured any day. And so hopefully Ethan's okay. As far as what else I wanted to see about being a crisp, clean game, I feel like that's what we saw. I feel like, we can walk away going, man, the defense had moments where they shined. The offense had moments where they shined. So I feel like that's what we got. I will say it was interesting. Gabe Judy Lawley was on the field today, and you didn't even notice it. And I think that's interesting, because that means they didn't try to test him a single time. I don't think they didn't throw it at him a single time, which means that you probably have pretty good coverage on somebody. Now, I understand he was probably covering either Leacock or Webb or Nimrod, one of the three. But the fact that we're not just testing him shows that they respect the guy. Joe and Nico, they respect him. And so I think that's a good sign. But I feel like I saw what I wanted to. What about you?
I mean, I guess I will say, I kind of miss the days when it was the first team offense and the second team defense against the first team defense and the second team offense, and it was a true orange and white game. I don't like this. The white is all offense and the orange is all defense.
Yeah. I didn't get it today, because they could have done exactly what you're saying today.
Yeah,
they had the depth to do it. The first year in many years that they had the depth to do it.
And if the issue was that they just were cautious and held out all those guys that they held out, okay, I get it. Not necessarily anything I'm ever going to show up to watch in person, if that's how every spring game is going to do. I
think that's an interesting point that might impact attendance in the future if they are going to hold out their best players.
I mean, if you're a kid who, and this past week I noticed they spent a lot of time on Knoxville Sports Radio hyping up all the pregame festivities and the fan experience that was going to happen during the game. I think we now know that was because they knew all those guys were going to get held out. And they probably knew if the crowd knew that 2/3 of the starters weren't going to play, that it probably would have hurt the crowd attendance pretty significantly. I don't know. I just miss the old spring football game. I don't like the new concepts. I don't, but if you're doing it to avoid injury, then just drop the game. Like, host one more scrimmage like you would normally do it, and let fans show up for the scrimmage, but don't make it into a huge deal and then sit 2/3 of your starters. Like, it's just not. Yeah, there were kids at that game today who will not get to go to a single game in Neyland Stadium this year, who were walking in excited to see Squirrel White and Ramel Keaton and Aaron Beasley and Keenan Peely, and they watched them walk around on the sideline in jerseys and shorts.
Yeah.
Not my favorite.
Did you think the backup linebackers tackled well? That was your preview show.
Well, they really didn't have a choice, because there wasn't they had no backups behind them. It was them or nobody. So, I felt like they did a good job. They didn't really flash. Like, you didn't see them. They didn't stand out, but I think they were solid. You didn't see them making huge mistakes, other than Cam Seldon's 20-something yard touchdown run, where he went essentially untouched.
Untouched.
That was because the backside linebacker filled the wrong hole. I couldn't tell on the screen who it was, but whoever that was, Cam Seldon should buy him a steak tonight because he gifted him a touchdown. So whoever that linebacker was, he's going to hear all about it in film room tomorrow, because he filled the wrong gap pretty badly. It was pretty glaring. But other than that one,
Doug Graham said, did any individual player disappoint either of you? Yes, I can name a couple. Nigel Lanier. He had multiple opportunities to make some plays today. We're playing wide receiver. He's number 28 out there. I think he's number 28. Okay, the one where the receiver and the quarterback, I think it may have been Gaston Moore, but I think it might have been Nico. It was Gaston Moore, I think, where the receiver broke off the route and Gaston, whoever it was, threw a deep ball to no one.
mm-hmm.
That was Nigel Lanier. Not sure who was at fault there. But there's another play, the one fumble, I believe that was Nigel Lanier as well. And then there's another time he dropped a pass, I think. So, he's certainly not high up on the depth chart, and maybe we saw why today, but I'm sure if he could go back and redo a couple things today, he would. I hope nothing but the best for him as far as, I hope he holds on to the ball and, in the future. I would say that. I would also say McAllen Castles. He did not have the day I was hoping he'd have. I think he was targeted twice, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So, I know he wasn't on the field, but only a third of the time. But, you get a chance in one of the first, it may have been the very first drive of the game, and it's 3rd and 8, and he drops a pass over the middle. People remember those things. So I hope that, hope we see him improve as well.
I can tell you what happened between Nigel Lanier and Gaston Moore. Would you like a quick lesson on the Art Briles stem tree?
Sure.
So in their offense, they have a rule, and it's completely up to interpretation. So, this is one of those routes that they rep every single day in practice because they have to build chemistry between the quarterback and receiver, because both players get to individually decide what route they're running while they're running. So when you run the vertical on the Art Briles offense, like Nigel Lanier was, you have a rule. If we're even, I'm leaving. So when he gets to his fastest step, if he feels like he's even with the defensive back, then he just keeps going. And the quarterback has to read that as it's happening in real time and recognize, okay, is he even? If he's even, I'm throwing the deep ball because he's going to keep going. But if the DB's on top of him, if he's not even, at any point, he has the opportunity to stop and throttle down and run a quick out. So, and the reason he runs to the outside is the DB has his hips facing one way. So in order for him to get back to the receiver, he has to stop, plant, turn, and then go back. So he doesn't turn to the inside because that would be easier on the DB. He turns to the outside. So Nigel Lanier read it that the DB was on top of him. So he ran the stop route and got outside. Gaston Moore read it that they were even, and he threw the deep ball. In that offense, that miscommunication happens all the time. We've just been very blessed in that we've got dudes on the outside that they're typically always even. And so Hendon Hooker, they just are. And so Hendon Hooker was pretty much always throwing the deep ball, or Joe Milton was always throwing the deep ball.
And none of those dudes played today.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was just a miscommunication based on where the defensive back was. The receiver saw one thing, the quarterback saw another. It happens.
Sheila Kelly. Welcome, Sheila. Glad you're watching with us. She said, I agree. I was disappointed not seeing some of the starters. I think they would have played some. Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I think everybody wanted to. I think everybody wanted to see the starting wide receivers in particular, and none of them played.
Yeah.
I will say this: this was very interesting. We saw a lot of no tight end sets today with 4 receivers on the field. That's exciting when you think about the fact that
Yep.
you can have Dante Thornton, Squirrel White, Brew McCoy, and Ramel Keaton all on the field all at the same time. And based
Yep.
on what we saw today, and that's got to be something that they were given, because we hardly ever saw that last year, ever.
Yep.
And that I agree with Rustin. That was something that they're showing to somebody in the SEC today. They're like, hey, we're just giving you something else to think about here. That was exciting to me to see so many 4 receiver sets. And man, golly bum, they could just run past people all day long with those 4 guys we just mentioned. Let's see. Mr. Jones said, I really don't get all the hype about Will Levis and Anthony Richardson. They were bad QBs against college defenses. Now they're going to figure it out against NFL defenses. Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's fair. I think that's fair. The combine is doing them a lot of favors right now.
I think you could go back through the years and make a list hundreds of players long of guys that NFL scouts said, "Oh, we'll fix them. We'll figure it out. We're just so much more sophisticated than those college coaches. We'll make it right. We'll bring those guys along." And Ryan Leaf and
that's what I was thinking of. Yeah,
Marcus Russell.
Yeah, that's a big one there.
I mean, it is amazing how they will completely disregard 4 years of film because they're just that arrogant that they think they can fix whatever it is, even though the people who are with them every day for the last 4 years never could.
Yeah. And I agree. If the Titans draft Hendon Hooker, yeah, you'll have Tennessee fans showing up in droves on Sundays.
Mr. Jones, I'm sure you're a Titans fan, but for Hendon's sake, I hope he doesn't go to the Titans. I hope he goes to a team. I hope he goes to a team with a good quarterbacks coach or a good offensive coordinator, and the Titans have neither.
I agree with John totally. The like button seems very attractive right now. We would so appreciate that. The subscribe button, also excellent choice. And if you wanted to share this with people, that would be fantastic as well. Yeah. Malik Willis was an NFL QB. Zach Wilson said, yeah, I agree. Yeah, you're good point. All right. So next question. What's one area of improvement that you noticed today that you'd like to see them work on over the off season?
Get better players on the field. Is that an answer? I wasn't overly impressed with the offensive line depth. I thought that our starters did a nice job. The next 5 was kind of iffy. I feel like that group has potential to be really, really strong, but you're one injury away from your second team being very involved. So I'd like to see the second team offensive line improve, and that's typical. We have a fantastic offensive line coach. Glenn Ellerby does an amazing job. Everybody in the country wants Glenn Ellerby. Georgia already tried to hire him away. He's a hot ticket, and there's a reason. He will get those guys ready, and I have no doubt that the offensive line depth that we expected to see will absolutely be there by the fall.
Mr. Jones said he wants to see the defense improve, specifically pass coverage. And he said that Hendon Hooker is the change that's going to happen in Nashville. I love it. It's great. But he said specifically he wants to see pass coverage get better. I think absolutely. Everybody, that has to be emphasis. And I think it is. I think it has been. And I think we saw that improve a little bit today. One area that I want to see continue to improve is Joe Milton throwing the deep ball. I know that the last 2 games of the season, especially against Vanderbilt, but also against Clemson in the Orange Bowl, I know he threw it much better, a deep ball, those 2 games. But today we saw that he's still working on it. The pass he had to Caleb Webb down the sideline. Okay, this is weird to say, but he threw the ball like, goodness, I don't even know how far in the air. But he had to take some off of it to not throw it, past him, which kudos for that he didn't do that. But he took a little bit too much off of it, underthrew him just a hair. Kudos to Caleb Webb for catching the ball between two defenders, which was a really impressive catch that he made. He could concentrate and see it all the way in. So I would say that would be my thing that I still want to see improvement on over the off season, and I think that will certainly happen because he's going to have the receivers in the indoor facility all the time throwing to him, I'm sure. John said that the thing he would like to see would be linebackers spying quarterbacks. Totally agree. That is one thing that, man, as Tennessee fans watching, Tennessee football, especially over the last, 12 years, it's like we're really good at letting quarterbacks, even non-mobile quarterbacks, get out of the pocket on 3rd and 18 and somehow they pick up a first down. We've seen that happen so many times. So I totally understand that, John. Totally understand.
If you look at our schedule next fall, though, and again, it depends on who wins the quarterback job at Bama, there may only be 4 mobile quarterbacks on the entire schedule, and one of them's at UT San Antonio. So it'll be interesting to see who wins that Bama job, but we're not actually going to have to see much of a running quarterback all season long.
Mr. Jones said Heupel's starting to get the horses to consistently compete versus Georgia and Bama. Totally agree. Douglas Graham said the best pass coverage is a good pass rush. 100%. And we actually can do that this year, which is awesome. We saw it last year a little bit, and this year we have so much more depth, so many athletes and speed on the defensive line. I think it was Omar Norman Lott got in the backfield one time today, right up the middle of the line. So that was good to see. We got some dudes that can do that now, and that's a nice change for Vol fans. Mr. Jones said Bryce Young is the first Bama quarterback in a long time who failed to win a natty. Coincidentally, he is also the first Bama quarterback to win the Heisman, but Hendon beat him. Hendon beat Bryce. Absolutely. ARN demolished the Hey, Mr. Jones, you need to be his campaign manager, man. I love it, man. Like we need to get Hendon in touch with you so that you can contact these teams for him because you're making great point. You're right. You're exactly right. If you look at, Hendon beat Bryce Young, Hendon beat Anthony Richardson, demolished Will Levis, just like you said, 2 years in a row. So, I agree with you. I'm loving it. You're getting me pumped about Hendon Hooker's pro career, and we're not even, that's what I'm talking about. He's not even drafted yet, but I'm ready. John said most of the quarterbacks this year, everyone said opposing quarterbacks couldn't run yet, or linebackers made them look like distant runners. Yeah, that's fair. It's that battered ball syndrome in us, man.
Yeah, what I'm saying is go look at the schedule and look at who the starting quarterback is expected to be. There are only 4 teams that have true running quarterbacks, and the other 8 are, when I say pocket passer, I mean lead foot, stand in one spot pocket passer. And Florida is probably the most interesting one of all, because if any of you saw the Florida spring game, the 2 dudes that are competing for starting jobs at Florida, one of which was Graham Mertz, that they all thought was going to absolutely be the starter. It's really bad when your spring game is so awful that in the post-game press conference, Billy Napier says, yeah, we're going to get a quarterback out of the portal.
That's exactly what I was about to mention. As soon as you started talking about it, I was like, the head coach after the game says, yeah, we're going to go get another quarterback. Thanks, coach.
If you're one of those 2 guys, you have to be sitting in the dorm room going, should I just go ahead and transfer? He pretty much just told the world that I'm definitely not starting.
Yep. No doubt. I was thinking the same thing. And Mr. Jones said, if what Hendon's doing is so easy, why wouldn't everyone? Yeah, absolutely. He did things that other people did not do.
Yep.
So we've already said our play of the game. Mine was the Nico pass to Ethan Davis down the sideline. Rustin's was Dayton Sneed's touchdown catch in the back of the end zone. I agree, man. It was awesome. It was a great play. Who was your player of the game?
It cracks me up that we're doing this for a spring game that 2/3 of the good players didn't step on the field. I guess Cameron Seldon. Like, I mean, the kid's just a freak. Nobody could watch Cam Seldon today and not get crazy excited. And people need to temper that a little bit because we don't need him to be great this year. Honestly, the best thing that could happen is if he and DeSean Bishop redshirt. That would be hugely positive for the future. And
please understand, Rustin says, if they redshirt, well, that means they still can play in 4 games.
4 games. Yeah. Yep. So I guess I'll go with him just because it's the first time in a long time we've had a spring game and everybody's like, holy cow, we look the part. And 2/3 of our starters weren't out there. We're winning and recruiting. It was cool when they gave him a standing ovation in the end zone.
That was cool.
That was well deserved.
Absolutely. I agree with you, Cam Seldon.
Speaking of standing ovations, and this is just completely off topic, but this has been in my crawl all day. Did you see the Cody Bellinger deal last night?
Mm-mm.
Okay, this is why Major League Baseball has a problem. Cody Bellinger.
Yes, I did see that.
Cody Bellinger's a Cub now. He goes back to Dodger Stadium for the first time. The fans give him a standing ovation. The catcher stands up to give him his moment. The pitcher steps off the rubber to give him his moment. And the stupid umpire calls a pitch clock violation and calls a strike on him. It's like, how out of your mind do you have to be in that moment? And how power hungry do you have to be in that moment to make that call? Like this, and this isn't new. Like other guys have had this happen, and the umpires were intelligent enough to just wait and give them their moment and then start the clock. And this joker called a strike during a standing ovation.
Yep. He took
anyway
because he took too long to get in the batter's box. It was crazy. As soon as you started talking about it, I was like, oh wait, I did see the replay of it. You could tell his face too. He was like, wait, are you serious right now?
Oh, they all were. Did you see?
I think everybody was. Yeah.
Did you see the camera angle of the pitcher where he tried to make eye contact and convince the guy not to call it? I mean, it's like every person in the stadium was like, what is he doing?
Yeah. Yeah. That was crazy. Absolutely. My player of the game, I'm going to go DeSean Bishop, 88 rushing yards.
You look good.
He and Cam Seldon, they were the two showstoppers today.
Yeah.
88 rushing yards. Cam Seldon had, I think, 85 all-purpose yards, 44 rushing, 41 receiving, something like that. I mean, like they were the reason that people were there for, today. They were impressive. They ended up being the reason people were there. And they were impressive dudes today. Once again, both of them should still be high school seniors right now. So
yeah, they should be going to prom, not the orange and white game.
Exactly. In other news, let's see. Do we have any comments come through? Yep. Let's see. Doug Graham said, what quarterback would want to play in Florida's offense? Florida whiffed on all best transfers and had to settle for Graham Mertz. Yeah, he's exactly right. That's exactly what happened. And unfortunately, it's not working out for him, which is fine with me. Let's see here. What else we got?
I think John's is the only,
Yeah. John said, now if the baseballs could catch fire and hit stride. Yeah, man, absolutely. Sheila said, I thought Gaston did some good things today as well. I know everyone talks about Nico and Joe as they should. Yeah. Well, hey, I'm the biggest Gaston Moore proponent on YouTube, I think, right now. Dude can sling it, man. I've been saying, that he's my guy. I've been saying it for a couple of months now after the season's been over. But we are so fortunate in that, and that's a good question, Mr. Jones. It's gonna end up being number 8. It's just right now they only had 12, so for the springs, but it'll be 8 in which cracks me up. I mean, like you can't get a
Right.
jersey and put an 8 on it, but that was the
The
reason they gave.
the team with $100 million of revenue couldn't come up
Yeah,
with a number 8 jersey.
yeah,
Seriously?
unreal. That's like, and they needed a number 5 and they didn't have a 5, so they did 3+2 on somebody on the back of the jersey with tape.
Yep.
But so I've been saying we are very fortunate in that we have Joe Milton and Nico, and then our third string is Gaston Moore. Duke can sling; he can throw it around the yard, throw the ball around the yard a little bit, as another former SEC coach would say. That I won't say his name because people stop watching our show. But let's see here. Maybe Compton has one he can borrow. Yeah, that was a good one.
Jonathan
Let's see.
did not expect a Jonathan Crompton comment
Yeah.
tonight. That was an unexpected one.
So John mentioned the baseball team. That was our last two things tonight. We're going to update everybody on baseball and softball. We're going to end with softball, so we end on a good note. Baseball team final of 6-3 today.
Very
obviously,
unfortunate.
obviously the bats are a concern right now. Once you get past, well, today Griffin Merritt was hitting 6th, I think.
Mhm.
Maui Yahuna, got to figure that one out. Got to figure out what's going on there. Rumors of a lingering back issue. We just got to figure out the bats. But I keep saying it over and over and over. The single most concerning thing about the baseball team right now is they are not making routine defensive plays. That is the most concerning thing. And
so tonight that wasn't actually the issue. It was 3-2 in the 7th, and Camden Sewell came in and imploded.
well, but even that, with it being 3-2, so in I believe it was the 3rd inning, something like that. Really tough play at the wall. I'm not trying to say it's in routine play, but Jared Dickey ball hit his glove and fell out of his glove at the wall. And I mean, that's a really tough play because, I mean, if you go back and watch, he's got his hand out trying to find the wall while also trying to catch a line drive, right over his head. And he's trying to go back and find the wall and make a play. That's a tough play, man. That's a really tough play. But the ball was in his glove. That's why I'm saying, it should have been caught because it was literally in the webbing of his glove and it fell out. But, he's hit back-to-back leadoff home runs the last 2 games, which is incredible. But he does that very next pitch. Could have been an out. Instead, he got a guy on second base. Very next pitch, dude hits a line drive into the gap, scores the guy. So, last night there was another routine double play ball. We make a flip to Maui at short. Maui misses the catch, misses the turn. Just little things. Good to see Dolander throwing like Dolander tonight. That was good. Let's see here.
Yeah, but so we were down 3-2 in the 7th. Camden Sewell came in and promptly gave up 6 free bases. He walked 2 and hit 4. And
that's never good.
And they didn't have anybody ready, and they couldn't get him out fast enough, and it was over by the time they got him out. He gave up 3 runs before they could get anybody else in there. They were down 6-2 going in the 9th and found a way to scratch across 1 run to make it 6-3. Mounted a little rally, but it just didn't really, it fizzled out. But, in the 7th, they were right there, and then Camden just imploded.
Mr. Jones said they started hot last year and failed to finish strong, so maybe they'll reverse that this year and finish strong. I hope so, absolutely. Do like Ole Miss did last year.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be nice. John said left too many on base. Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of leaving too many on base, that's the story of the Kentucky Lady Vol softball game today. We'll get to that in a second. Before we do that real quick, though, I wanted to mention, if anybody wondered why Tony Vitello wanted updates to Lindsey Nelson Stadium, All you had to do was watch the game yesterday and tonight, and tomorrow. Watch it tomorrow at uh, Baum Walker Stadium at Arkansas. Dude, that place is beautiful. Like that is
Mhm.
a gorgeous stadium. Um, you know, they're recruiting the same guys, and so facilities matter. We know that. And my goodness, if you go to Baum Walker Stadium and you're like, whoa, I mean, that's a nice place. And so they've already done a little bit to Lindsey Nelson, but I mean, that's why it's a need at Lindsey Nelson to freshen it up and make it look a little better. I mean, even the cement walls on the back of the press box, just get some uh, stack stone or something on that thing. So that's why it's a need. But okay, think about this: the Kentucky softball team today in the first 3 innings. In 3 innings, they left 9 runners on base. That's literally the most that's physically possible. That means the bases were loaded all 3 innings, and Tennessee got out of it with only 1 run scoring in the first 3 innings. They ended up run rolling them. So this is interesting. All I did on this lower third was I just changed the name of the team. Because last time we went live, it said Lady Vols run roll Virginia Tech. And that was the number 14 team in the country. Tonight they run roll the number 16 team in the country. Man, they're killing it, man. They are rolling.
33 and 5.
Yeah, I mean, just unreal. They're just tearing it up. Super excited for them. They're going for the sweep tomorrow against Kentucky at Kentucky. Anytime you can win a series against a top 20 opponent in the SEC at their place and potentially sweep them at their place, that's incredible. Really, really impressive. Mr. Jones going conspiracy. Hang on now. Hang on
No,
now.
don't put that up there.
He said, I saved screenshots from the Tennessee Vandy game last year, and the umps peeled the sticker off the bat. They were standing shoulder to shoulder to try to block it. But zoom and slow-mo shows the truth. Dude, that's like the Zapruder film, man. That's what I'm talking about.
That won't be an issue this year because right now this team can't play with Vanderbilt. So we're not going to have to worry about that.
Dude, I'm loving that. That is, you just took this show to a whole new level, man. I appreciate that. That is awesome. That is fantastic. It's like the Zapruder film for Tennessee baseball. I love it. And I love the fact that we're still ticked off about the sticker gate from last year, which it was pretty crazy. But side note, a sticker on a bat. I mean, come on. Yeah. There's got to be a better way of doing that. That's the main point there. You can't just let it stick. Think about how many people handle the bat. If it's raining, the glue can loosen. Yeah. But in major league or in major college baseball, Division I baseball, we're relying on stickers. Like there has to. It's like that Friends episode. There's got to be a better way. There is, Kevin. With Joey on the infomercial. He said the ump's fingers are pinched like he rolled something up. Check the tape. I love it, man. I'm going to go back and try to find that. That's awesome. I love it. Well, that was a lot of stuff we talked about there. Awesome day for the orange and white game. Could not have asked for better weather up there. Hype will even mention that in the pregame and the postgame interviews. Yeah. I mean, my goodness, wonderful weather for it. Hey, we're super excited. Monday night, we're actually going to get to record a show with Reed Carringer, formerly of Football Time and Tennessee Magazine, so also of Rocky Top Insider. He's one of the founding people for Rocky Top Insider. So we're super excited to have Reed on the show. That's going to be awesome. We will release that episode on Tuesday, which happens to be Rustin's birthday on Tuesday. That's super exciting. So a lot of stuff coming up. Tomorrow, Lady Vols look for the sweep. Base Vols trying to avoid being swept tomorrow. So big days for both those teams tomorrow. Rustin, any last thoughts about the orange and white game before we sign off?
No, I think it's a great thing. Like I say, I just hope they get back to the old format. people who were there said it was an amazing atmosphere, that they did a great job with fan experience. And, for the people who can't get up there during the fall because the tickets and the cost is just so exorbitant, to be able to go spend a day and only have to pay $5 to get in and get to experience the whole thing is just a really cool thing. And I'm glad Danny White makes sure the athletic department treats it like a real game. So that part's always just really cool.
Totally agree. And I thought of one other thing that I want to show everybody. Let me see if I can find it real quick. I'm going to pretend as though I'm not stalling right now. Oh, here we go. All right. So real quick, just in time for Mother's Day, I want to show everybody what we got going on in the on the volbros.com in our store. This shirt right here, Tennessee Mom. I'll zoom in. Look at that. Got daisies because of Chuck St. Clair got her answer on Twitter. We asked, why did we put daisies on that shirt? And that's because that's where the orange in Tennessee, the Tennessee orange came from, was the circle in the middle of the daisies that grew on the hill right there on campus next to Neyland Stadium. So Tennessee Mom, really cool shirt. So many different colors and everything. If you use the promo code MOMS for the next, I think it's until Friday of this week, you get this upcoming week, you get 10% off your order. So everybody go check that out. Great Mother's Day gift there. What a cool looking little shirt. So we appreciate everybody joining us. Mr. Doug said, enjoyed the show. Looking forward to the next one. Appreciate that so much, Doug. We appreciate you joining us. Mr. Jones, appreciate you joining. Danny Orange and White. Oh, I like that. That's clever. Danny White, Danny Orange and White. I like that's clever right there. I like that. We're gonna have to start calling him that. Hey, let's do what Danny Orange and White said and text a buddy about the Vol Bros, man. That's what I'm talking about. That'd be awesome. He said the hype is real. Totally agree. Oh my goodness, that's a dad joke there. Nico, I'm a believer. Believe. Nice job. Austin said we don't have the pitching this year, which is weird with the arms we had returning. Our bats don't seem to be as clutch either. We were capable of getting it together before turning time. Okay, so here's my take on that. We got the pitching. It's because it's the same arms in there. It's deeper in the bullpen. They'll figure it out. I guarantee. I'm confident about that. It's the bats and the defensive mistakes that we got to get those fixed. We got to get
There's still some leadership issues in the dugout. You can see it. Anybody who's ever been in a college dugout or a college locker room, if you're watching that dugout, you can see it. There's some, as a coach, I would be concerned about the body language and just some of the ways people are leading. They've got some leadership issues that they've got to get fixed.
We appreciate everybody joining us tonight. Seriously, thank you all so much for all your comments. That's the best part of this. Honestly, that's the funnest part, is getting to interact with all of you and hearing your comments and everything. We so appreciate you joining us and following along with us in the comments and interacting with us. It makes this fun. So we appreciate all of you joining us. Y'all are awesome. Go Vols. Big day tomorrow. Hopefully the base Vols can avoid the sweep, and hopefully the Lady Vols can get the sweep. So we hope everybody has a wonderful evening. And for the last time in maybe a while, we're going to get to close our show with a football. Well, actually, we'll probably do that with Reed when we talk about the Orange and White game too on Monday. So for the next to last time in about 4 months, oh goodness.
That segue didn't work out for you.
Yeah, it did not work out. Mr. Jones is you're the one-liner, man. You're a king of the one-liners tonight. Especially the I'm a believer one. That was the best one. So hope everybody has a great evening, and we will see you all on Tuesday. Have a great evening, everybody.